There's some people who like lived in like Texas and Florida who like they didn't have a pandemic.
Don't tell the kids how horrible it is.
But that's real life. Tell them.
It is. I spoke at a high school last week, and when I left, I was like, maybe I didn't need to tell them about sleeping in my car, and like maybe they're not ready to hear that.
No,
right?
that's the good shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm so open about my entire life.
Yeah.
Even before I left, she was like, hey, just I was like, she's like, what are you going to talk about? I was like, oh, I'll probably start with this, and this. She's like, just maybe don't tell them about how you ruin your credit. And I was like,
I'm just worried about the teachers. The teachers are like,
but they need that real life.
Yeah, what does he say?
Don't tell the kids how horrible it is.
But that's real life. Tell them.
It is. And I'm so open about it to the point where mostly because I was so quiet about my life before, because I always wanted to be perceived as the golden child.
Yes.
And once I was able to break through that, which I always attribute acting class to.
Yeah.
Once I was able to break through that and I realized, wait, this is all my power.
Yeah.
Then everything changed. And now I'm same thing as you. I'm so open, but I'd much rather this version of me versus the closed off.
That's it.
Trying to pretend like everything's okay.
That's it. Sometimes I question my own openness, but because it's pouring out of me, like, yes, there are times to have a filter, but I'd rather lean on my default just being me.
Yeah.
I'm not editing myself for anybody, Like, I'm just gonna tell you who and what I am, and what I believe.
Yeah. Well, speaking of telling the truth and everything, every movie has its all is lost moment. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. What is that?
It.
Yeah. So
Had it.
If we're talking about 100-year-old version talking of you talking about your current life now, was there a moment in your life that comes to mind?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, yes. And fuck, it is a cliche, but those moments do deepen your life. They do shape your character. They do, once you get through them, make you better, more compassionate, stronger, all these things. But they also are really painful, so you might come through them with some coping habits or defense mechanisms that you do have to look at. But yeah, man, mine was like a 7, how old am I? Mine was like a 6-7 year journey of the season of all is lost. When I was 25, my parents got divorced. That was the beginning of it. It was sudden. It was messy. It was life-changing. Parents got divorced. I ran out of money the next year. A major relationship that I thought was the relationship ended. I was working day jobs for the first time in my life. At a certain point, I didn't have an agent or manager in the first time in my life. Like, my career had never felt further away. Had a best friend lose his mind. Like, just this shit back to back to back to back to back. Then COVID hit. And like, COVID was this weird time. I know there's some people, it's so funny, I've talked about this before. There's some people who like lived in like Texas and Florida who like, they didn't have a pandemic. So whenever I say this, they're like, what are you talking about? Because they were just open the whole time and just living a normal life. And it's so strange that some of us like went through this major life-altering time where like you couldn't go out, and our city was empty. LA was empty for a year. It was bizarre. No traffic.
That was probably the only bright side.
Exactly.
But you didn't know if you could go out. You're like,
and there wasn't a ton of places to go, but yes, you could drive anywhere in 20 minutes. We saw how small LA was just that time. You're like, oh my God, I can get here in 15 minutes. Normally.
I've been late every day since.
But yeah, so like whatever, COVID hit LA, it hit my life, and it started this weird process of like me both losing my mind because of everything that was happening in the world, but also starting some slow shifting, like back to myself and what I wanted and who I am, and it's taken a lot of time, man. Just in this last year, and honestly, my podcasts are a part of it. They've been part of me building a foundation of what I put my energy into, what I put out online. That's helped in this last year. Like, I really feel like things have turned. That phase of my life that it felt like I couldn't get out of, feels like it's finally like turned and things are moving and opening again.
So it sounds like that was like somebody call a good valley.
You see?
I thought
you see,
maybe
it's got meanings.
Yeah. Meanings.
There's a lot of meanings in there.
Yeah.
But yes, dude, yes, it was a good valley, even though it was a hard time. Yeah, it was strange, man, for so many years. Like, anytime I would try and put myself back together and try and get something going, something else would come along and just fucking knock me back down. And it kept happening like year after year. It was daunting.
Yeah.
Like, it was daunting.
I bet.
How
Yeah.
did you pull yourself out of that?
You know, that, like, part of it was that process of, like, getting knocked down by something, taking the hit, feeling what I needed to feel, going to therapy or whatever, like starting to work out, you know, doing the things to try and build myself back together in some way, try and start living again, try and start creating things again, get on top of it, and then something else coming along. And just that cycle for, 7 years of like trying to take the hit, take the trauma, feel what I need to feel, integrate it, come back to my life, try and come back to myself, try and come back to my courage, try and come back to my creativity, try and come back to my compassion, get back in there on my life, take the hit. Like, it was that just for so long. But in that process, man, like, I learned my boundaries, learned what my yeses and nos are, learned how to stop being a fucking people pleaser, learned how to really be honest with people in relationships, like, got closer with certain people in my family, got closer with certain friends. Like, it was a time that shaped me. Now looking back, I'm like, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
It shaped me. I'm a deeper version of myself and a bigger version of myself because of it. But man, it wasn't fun.
Like, would have preferred maybe 2 years of that.
Yeah, because it was really ongoing. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at your life and go like, I don't know. Everything I worked for feels like I can't access it. That was the hardest thing, was like, now my family's gone. That gave everything for me to live this dream. This dream now feels inaccessible to me. And we all believed it. The reason my family did this thing was because they believed in me and that I could do it. And I was doing it and I had it. And now it's gone. Like, now I can't even find it. And they're gone. And what happened? You know, like,
Could I have avoided this?
Yes.
What did I do wrong? Yeah.
Yeah, all that. Like, looking at what the fuck happened and how do I get where I want to go again? And man, luckily life opens up again. You know, we go through seasons where things contract and where things expand.
Yeah. When you get through something like that, you really understand, like, wait, I can get through anything at that point. Because that's something that a lot of people don't even have to go through that, or don't go through that journey, and they don't become whoever they're supposed to become, or they avoid that, or what have you.
Facts.